Good morning, all of you. Let's start the new chapter whose name is Scalars and Vectors. In this chapter, we are going to learn what is a scalars, what is a vector. So this is session number first. What topic we are going to cover in this chapter? What is scalar physical quantity? Scalar physical quantity किसको बोलते हैं? What is vector physical quantity? Vector किसको बोलते हैं? Scalars किसको बोलते हैं? Basically, we will also learn what is a physical quantity. Because of previous chapter already we have learned what is physical quantity. Then also we will revise what is a physical quantity. Representation of vector, how these vectors are represent. Okay, and there are types of vector. There are so many types of vectors. Few types we will discuss here. This chapter is included in your HSC chapter number 2, which is a mathematical method. In HSC chapter number 2 mathematical method, there is scalars and vectors. So let's start with the physical quantity. What is a physical quantity? Physical quantity किसको बोलते हैं? The quantity which we can measure. We can say the quantity which we can whatever measure. जो quantity हम लोग measure कर सकते हैं. Okay, measure means whatever. For example, suppose height. Suppose there is one box. Height of this box we can measure, means height is a physical quantity. Okay, so that physical quantity means whatever the quantity which we can measure. For example, mass. Can we measure mass? Yes, mass we can measure 4 kg, 5 kg, whatever. What is your mass? You will answer 50 kg. So this is whatever physical quantity. So physical quantity means the quantity which we can measure. How to represent physical quantity? So physical quantity, if you get confused, कैसे represent करते? Physical quantity always having a magnitude and unit. Magnitude and unit. For example, mass. 4 is what your magnitude. 4 is what your magnitude, which we can say value. Magnitude का simple meaning होता है numerical value. Magnitude means what your numerical value. And units means whatever SI units. Okay, so 4 is the magnitude, kg is whatever SI units. If I say time 2 seconds, so 2 is whatever magnitude, second is whatever unit, hence time is whatever physical quantity. If I say temperature 20 Kelvin, so 20 is whatever magnitude, Kelvin is whatever unit, hence temperature is whatever physical quantity. But if I say tables, how many tables are there? Suppose answer is a 10. What is a 10? What is unit? There is no unit, so table is not physical quantity. If I say pencils, how many pencils are there? 20 pencils. Okay, there is no unit. Okay, so 20 is magnitude, but there is no unit, hence pencil is what your no physical quantity. Pencil is not your physical quantity. If I say air, what is the answer? No. So air is not physical quantity. But if I say air pressure is 22 Pascal. So this is Pascal is a SI unit. 22 is whatever magnitude. Hence air pressure is whatever physical quantity. I hope so it is clear what is physical quantity. Okay, let's go next. So physical quantity is quantity which we can whatever measure. So physical quantity always represent in the form of magnitude and unit. Physical quantity. Basically there are two types of physical quantities. Okay, physical quantity. In previous chapter we have learned there are 7 fundamental physical quantity and 2 supplementary physical quantity. Okay, but here there is a properties very different, but based on direction. Okay, is there a direction or no directions? So based on direction, physical quantity again divided into two categories. One is the scalars, second is what your vectors. Previous session we have also learned physical quantity. There are again two types was there. Okay, one is what your derived physical quantity, first is what your fundamental physical quantity. There was a different. Okay, when one physical quantity is not depend upon, means whatever fundamental physical quantity is not depend upon any other units, other physical quantity, but derived physical quantities depends upon fundamental physical quantity, one or more than fundamental physical quantities, hence derived physical quantities. But here there is a type is different. Physical quantity, there are scalars and vector, depends upon a direction. Okay, you will get it. What is it? So scalars, what is the scalars? Scalars is nothing but scalars are quantities that have a magnitude. Magnitude, we know that magnitude means whatever value, numerical value. Okay, numerical value, and a no direction. There is a no direction if there is such a physical quantity. ऐसी अगर physical quantity है उसको बोलते हैं scalar. Okay, for example, time time is equal to whatever 2 hours. Okay, so time, there is no direction. Mass 20 kg, no direction, but it's physical quantity. Temperature 300 Kelvin, this is physical quantity but no direction. So such a physical quantities are called as whatever scalars. Scalars means there is a no direction. Yes, ये physical quantity है but उनको direction नहीं है. Now next, vectors. Vectors के इसमें direction नहीं था, scalars में, vectors में direction है. So it has both magnitude and direction. So vector physical quantity having a magnitude and direction. For example, there are force, also has a direction, magnitude. Okay, acceleration, velocity, these are example of physical quantity. Later on we are going to learn in detail. Obey, these obeys the law of vector. ये law of vector क्या laws obey करते हैं. So ऐसे physical quantity, जो physical quantity has a direction and magnitude and also obeys the law of vector, such a physical quantities are called as whatever vector. क्यों मैं बोल रहा हूँ law of vector? Because of there is one physical quantity called as whatever current. So current has the direction. Yes, current has the direction, but it is not a vector. ये vector नहीं है because current doesn't obey the law of vectors. Law of, there are so many laws. Okay, so what is current? Current is whatever scalar physical quantity. Current क्या है? Scalar है. Okay, so current, whenever in exam ask what is a scalar, so scalar sorry, what is a current? Current is a scalar physical quantity. Now let's go next, scalars. So scalars, it doesn't have a direction, the physical quantity जिसको direction नहीं है, उसको only magnitude है. So it has only magnitude and has a no direction in space. So example of scalar physical quantity, these are examples is given. Okay, so length, area, volume, time, mass, these are some examples. So example of scalar physical quantities. What is the vectors? Vectors quantity that has both magnitude and direction. इसको दोनों है, magnitude and direction. For examples, okay, examples लेते हैं. Suppose this is duct is applying a force on this bigger box or anything. This force has some direction. This force is in this direction. So force is whatever. Force is what? Force is a vector. Force क्या है? Vector है. Force is whatever vector. Because of it, this force is denoted by some direction, and it obeys all vector laws. Hence, force is a vector. So displacement is also vector. Velocity is also vector. Acceleration is also vector. Force is also vector. Okay. Now let's scalars. So distance, speed, mass, time, pressure, energy, volume, density. These are scalars and these are vectors. Few examples are given here. Scalars and vectors. Just read it and go through it. It's very simple. You will get it. Vectors. Now let's go in a detail. We have learned about scalars. Scalars जिसको direction नहीं होता. Vectors, it has a direction. Vector, simply it has magnitude as well as the direction. Magnitude भी है, direction भी है. Vectors has magnitude and directions. So representation of vector. So vectors को कैसे represent करते हैं? So how you will represent a magnitude and how you will represent a vector, a direction at a once. So line segment or by an arrow. So vector is always represented by line segment because of it has some magnitude. If small magnitude, small line. If bigger magnitude, bigger line. Okay. So listen. So this is a small, or this magnitude, your length represent what? Your magnitude. Length represent magnitude. Okay, now magnitude, then this is also vector, this is also vector. So vector is always represented by line segment or by an arrow. To remember, vector हे arrow से represent किया जाता है, because arrow gives you what? Your direction. So this gives you direction. मतलब ये vector जो, this vector is going in this direction, this vector is goes in this direction. Okay, so arrow give you direction. This is also vector. Now how to represent and how to write a vector. So we have learned how to represent a vector. Okay, if I say there is vector is force is equal to 2 Newton and force is equal to 3 Newton. If I say, so vector force, this magnitude, small magnitude, bigger magnitude, we don't know what is the direction. Suppose this direction along the x-axis, let's assume. So direction, this is a 2 magnitude, इससे थोड़ा सा बड़ा होगा तो this थोड़ा सा बड़ा है. So this is a 3 Newton, this is a 2 Newton. Okay, is it clear? So line segment, your length of a line gives you magnitude, length of a line gives you what? Your magnitude. How to write this vector? So suppose this is point P, this is point Q. So how to write this vector? This vector can be write like this, PQ bar. Okay, so this is your called as a starting point, this is called as a ending point. So this is starting point, which is called as a tail, and this is the ending point, which is known as what? Your head. Now next, symbol के लिए how to write a vector? So symbol के लिए vector is can be write like this, PQ bar, starting point into ending point. Suppose this is a CD vector, so how to write this vector? This vector CD bar, this vector will be CD bar. If there is a this vector is FG, so this vector will be FG bar. If this vector is AB, this vector will be AB bar. By using a single letter also you can represent a vector. For example, this is P bar, this is a Q bar, this is a R bar. Okay, single vectors लेटर से भी हम लोग वेक्टर को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. Now vector has magnitude and direction. Okay, so vector is को magnitude भी होता है, direction भी होता है. Direction always represented by cap. Okay, so single capital letter x bar, a bar ऐसे single letter से भी हम लोग represent करते हैं. Vector has a magnitude. So magnitude कैसे represent करते हैं? This mod is represented by a magnitude, and direction इसको क्या बोलते हैं? Cap. इसको क्या नाम है? Cap. So if there is a n cap, I cap, j cap, k cap. Okay, for example, this vector is a p bar. ये वेक्टर p बार है, इसका डायरेक्शन वी विल राइट p कैप, और एनी कैप n कैप लिख सकते हैं. ओके, सो कैप, व्हेनेवर कैप कम्स, कैप गिव्स यू व्हाट? योर डायरेक्शन. टू बी नोटेड, ये हमेशा याद रखो. कैप अगर आया इसका मतलब ये क्या दे रहा है? डायरेक्शन दे रहा है हमको, कुछ नहीं, ये ओनली आपको डायरेक्शन बता रहा है. मॉड क्या दिखा रहा है आपको? मॉड गिव्स यू व्हाट? योर दिस गिव्स यू मैग्नीट्यूड. मैग्नीट्यूड मींस व्हाट? योर लेंथ ऑफ वेक्टर. bigger length, bigger magnitude, smaller length, smaller magnitude. For example, this, how to represent this magnitude? ये वेक्टर, इसका मैग्नीट्यूड p और इसकी डायरेक्शन n कैप, सो ये गया p बार. इसको ऐसे भी रिप्रेजेंट कर सकते हैं. सपोज दिस इज वेक्टर का नाम है cd. सेम वेक्टर कैन बी राइट लाइक दिस, cd बार, mod of cd, and direction any direction n cap. So this direction is represented by n cap. ये डायरेक्शन मतलब n cap के डायरेक्शन है, तो this is n cap. Okay, now let's go. Types of vector. So first vector is called as a zero vector. Zero vector means what? Null vector. So vector we know that vector में दो parts है basically. Vector में है magnitude, vector में है direction. So magnitude zero हो सकता है, direction never be zero. So null vector, जीरो वेक्टर, नल वेक्टर मतलब क्या जीरो है? उसका मैग्नीट्यूड इज 0, मैग्नीट्यूड इज 0. फॉर एग्जांपल, योर कार इज स्टैंडिंग, okay, there is no स्पीड ऑफ दिस कार, स्पीड इज 0. सो इसका वेलोसिटी वेक्टर क्या है? 0. इसका स्पीड इज 0 मींस वेलोसिटी वेक्टर इज 0. दिस एक्सेलरेशन वेक्टर इज व्हाट यूर 0. सो वेलोसिटी वेक्टर इसको क्या बोल सकते हैं हम लोग? 0 ऑफ स्टेशनरी पार्टिकल. सो अंडरस्टूड, क्योंकि इसका वेलोसिटी, इफ राइट वेलोसिटी इज मॉड v इनटू वेलोसिटी की डायरेक्शन. इसकी मैग्नीट्यूड मतलब स्पीड होता है. वेलोसिटी का मैग्नीट्यूड मतलब क्या होता है? स्पीड क्या है? 0 इंटू वी कैप. So this is v bar is equal to value क्या आएगी? v bar की 0. Hence this is called as a zero vector. Okay, whose magnitude is whatever 0. Equal vector, equal, not to be remember. Vector there are we have learned two parts, magnitude and direction. So दोनों equal होने चाहिए. Magnitude भी equal होने चाहिए, direction भी equal होना चाहिए. Magnitude मतलब length. Okay, so they're having a same physical quantity which has the same magnitude and direction. मैग्नीट्यूड भी सेम है, डायरेक्शन भी सेम है, मतलब सेम लेंथ है. बोथ वेक्टर्स हैविंग अ सेम लेंथ एंड गोज इन अ सेम डायरेक्शन. हियर आल्सो लुक एट दिस a bar, this vector, this a bar vector and this a bar vector is same. This b bar vector and this b bar vector is equal. So these vectors are called as equal because of same direction, same magnitude. Equal direction, equal magnitude, equal vector. Equal direction, equal magnitude, equal vector. Next, negative vector. What is negative vector? Negative मतलब opposite vector. Negative vector को और एक नाम है opposite vector. क्या opposite हो सकता है? Magnitude? नहीं, magnitude हम लोग कैसे लिखा था? Magnitude को तो हमने mod में डाला था. So this is magnitude is always positive. मैग्नीट्यूड ऑलवेज पॉजिटिव. किसी भी वेक्टर का मैग्नीट्यूड क्या होता है? ऑलवेज पॉजिटिव. सो अपोजिट वेक्टर मतलब क्या? उसका डायरेक्शन अपोजिट है. डायरेक्शन अपोजिट मतलब टू टेक दिस डायरेक्शन अपोजिट देयर मस्ट बी सम रेफरेंस. रेफरेंस मतलब क्या? कि सपोज ये वेक्टर इस तरफ जा रहा है, देन आई कैन से दिस वेक्टर इज अ नेगेटिव वेक्टर विथ कंपेयर टू दिस वेक्टर. ओके, सो अपोजिट डायरेक्शन. So the negative vector of a given vector is a vector of the same magnitude but opposite in direction. मतलब given vector ये है, ये हमको एक वेक्टर दिया है p बार, इसका एक नेगेटिव वेक्टर निकालना है. So you will draw this vector. Okay, so this is a negative vector of this given vector. So I will write minus p bar. Okay, minus मतलब negative. This negative sign shows what your direction is opposite. Magnitude is never negative. Vector में to be remember, magnitude is never negative. Negative sign shows your direction. I say this direction is positive, means this direction if I say negative. Okay, so this is AB bar, this is CD bar. Okay, if AB bar, if you consider plus, it will be minus. If in the case, if you consider this is plus, sorry, if you consider this is minus, this will be plus, but there must be a reference. This vector, if you consider this plus vector, this will be minus vector. So these both are opposite vector. Okay, and negative vector. So this vector is a negative vector of this vector. So ये a bar का negative vector क्या है? Minus a bar. Understood? Position vector. What is position? जो किसी की position बता रहा है. Okay, the vector which gives you position of any particle. Okay, or any coordinate system. So the vector which gives the position of a particle, किसी particle की जो position बता रहा है, that is called as position vector at any point with respect to the origin. For example, position vector हम लोग draw करते हैं. For example, ये हमारा coordinate system है. Coordinate system मतलब x axis, y axis, two dimensional लिया है, मतलब दो axis लिया है. So here एक particle है, इसकी position हमको अगर निकालनी है, so how you will draw this position? What is along the x-axis? So let's consider this small x. What is along the y-axis? So इसकी position आएगी small x, y. So how to draw position vector? यहाँ से एक line draw करो. arrow draw करो up to this point. Suppose this starting point is O, ending point is P. So this vector का नाम आएगा OP bar, starting point and ending point. So how to write this OP bar? OP bar को कैसे लिखोगे आप लोग? OP bar, it has a magnitude and it is a direction. Direction अभी random कुछ भी हो सकता है. Let's assume n cap है. Okay. So how to write OP bar? OP bar कैसे लिखते हैं? To be remember. Any vector. How to write any vector? Any vector को कैसे लिखते हैं? अभी what is the direction towards the x? X axis की direction क्या है? I will explain. X I cap plus y j cap. So this I cap मतलब gives you direction of x axis. Y cap j cap मतलब gives you direction of what your y axis. I'm going to explain you this in detail. Don't worry. Okay, so this OP bar can be write like this. What is the coordinate towards x axis? What is the coordinate towards y axis? This is the position vector. Okay, so this is the position at point A. What is the position of this car? Position vector at point B. What is position of this car? Position vector at point C. What is position of this car? Position vector. Now next, unit vector. It's an important vector. Unit vector. बाकी के भी important है. Okay, a vector having a unit magnitude. Unit मतलब 1. Okay, in a given direction. Direction तो है, vector है मतलब direction है, but magnitude is what your unit magnitude. Okay, for example, so unit vector, let me give you to remember. This is very important. कभी भी नहीं भूलना है. Suppose there are 3 axes, x axis, y axis, z axis. Let's assume this is x axis, this is y axis, and this is what your z axis. So direction of x axis in physics we denoted by I cap. Direction of y axis we denoted by j cap. Direction of z axis we denoted by what your k cap. To remember direction, we don't need to direction. So direction is k cap, I cap, j cap. If any object is going towards the x axis, if object is goes like this, so इसकी direction, what is the direction? We can say I cap. If object is goes along the y axis, what will be the direction? Direction simply just represent j cap. We know that, we have learned. Cap means gives you direction. Cap gives you direction. If any vector is goes along the z axis, this direction is what you are equal to k cap. Okay, direction will be k cap. But what happens if object is moving here? Neither goes along the x axis, neither goes along the y axis. If object is goes along this side, as we have learned position vector, ऐसा है. So what you will do, just calculate their position coordinate. Okay, so this is O, this is a P. Position coordinate आए. Let's assume this is a px, py and pz. Suppose 0 आ गए. So position coordinate px, py, pz. So how to write a vector? Vector can be write like this: OP bar. This vector will be, what is the towards x axis? Px towards the x axis, that is I cap. Py towards the y axis, that is a j cap, and pz towards the z axis, that is what your k cap. This I cap, j cap, k cap called as what your unit vector. इसको क्या बोलेंगे हम लोग? Unit vector. So how to represent the unit vector? So unit vector is always represented by what your this magnitude, vector divided by its magnitude. Okay, so any vector, suppose this OP bar मतलब क्या है? ये सेम वेक्टर, इसका कुछ मैग्नीट्यूड आएगा और इसका कुछ डायरेक्शन आएगा n कैप. ओके, अभी डायरेक्शन I कैप, j कैप, k कैप, मतलब दिस डायरेक्शन, लेट्स अज्यूम दिस डायरेक्शन इज n कैप. सो डायरेक्शन, so this n cap is called as what your unit vector, which has only direction दिखा रहा है. So this is OP bar divided by what your magnitude of OP. Okay, we will learn later on how to calculate this magnitude. ये magnitude कैसे calculate करते हैं, क्या है, ये भी हम लोग बाद में learn करेंगे. Don't worry. So OP bar, what is OP bar? Px I cap plus Py j cap plus Pz k cap. So OP bar is equal to Px I cap plus py j cap plus pz k cap. And what is the magnitude? Magnitude is always represented by under root px square plus py square plus pz whole square. कोऑर्डिनेट स्क्वायर है इज इक्वल टू व्हाट योर मैग्नीट्यूड ऑफ व्हाट योर ओपी. सो ये आएगा आपका एन कैप. टू बी रिमेंबर इफ देयर इज अ माइनस पी एक्स, सो माइनस का होल स्क्वायर बन जाएगा प्लस. सो डोंट वरी, ये माइनस होने दो, प्लस होने दो. ओके, फॉर एग्जांपल इफ आई से वन वेक्टर ओपी बार इज इक्वल टू 2 i cap minus 3 j cap plus 4 k cap. ओके, इसका यूनिट वेक्टर, हाउ टू कैलकुलेट यूनिट वेक्टर? OP bar is equal to magnitude of OP into its direction. So direction n cap will be OP bar divided by its magnitude. So n cap will be OP bar. How to calculate direction? Direction divided by under root 2 square plus minus 3 square plus 4 square. To remember, यहाँ पे कभी भी माइनस नहीं आता. नाउ माइनस स्क्वायर माइनस 3 स्क्वायर बिकम्स व्हाट एवर ऑलवेज प्लस, प्लस 9 आएगा. ओके, सो डोंट वरी, यहाँ पे माइनस होने दो, प्लस होने दो. रूट के अंदर दिस रूट इज ऑलवेज पॉजिटिव. सो -2 होगा, उसका भी +4 हो जाएगा. -4 होता तो उसका भी +16 हो जाता. ओके, सो अंडरस्टूड what is the unit vector? So this gives you only direction. So what is the direction of OP bar? So n cap gives you direction of OP bar, n cap. So this is what your unit vector. So I have written here what is unit vector, how to represent unit vector. Any vector is given m bar, so its unit vector of m bar is equal to direction of u cap is equal to m bar divided by m. So unit vector is not gives you only direction. Unit vector हमको क्या देता है? Only direction. Has magnitude, unit मतलब one magnitude है. Okay, and has the same direction. So I cap, j cap, k cap we have here present. ux इसको बोलते हैं, इस डायरेक्शन को हम लोग ux बोला. So ux I cap is equal to I cap, u y j cap, uz k cap. मतलब along the this x की डायरेक्शन, unit vector की डायरेक्शन along the x axis which is known as I cap, along the y axis known as j cap, along the z axis known as k cap. Resultant vector, result, दो 3 vector का result. For example I say this is a 2 Newton, F1 force 1 is equal to 2 Newton, force 2 is equal to 3 Newton. What is the result? Addition करने के बाद में क्या आएगा हमको? You will get whatever 5 Newton. Okay, so this is a 5 Newton. This is parallel. Okay, if there are not parallel, what to do? वो हम लोग later learn करेंगे. So resultant vector is nothing but whatever. This is a addition or subtraction of a vector. मतलब result वेक्टर का क्या है? रिजल्ट है. रिजल्ट ऑफ टू और मोर वेक्टर्स इज दैट सिंगल वेक्टर. एक सिंगल आएगा, रिजल्ट मतलब एक ही आता है. ओके, सो 2 होने दो, 4 होने दो, 5 होने दो, ऑल वेक्टर्स को ऐड करने के बाद और सब्ट्रैक्ट करने के बाद व्हाट यू आर डूइंग, whatever result will come, that will be whatever single vector which produces the same effect. मतलब फोर्स को हम लोग खाली फोर्स में ऐड कर सकते हैं. फोर्स वेक्टर कैन बी ऑलवेज ऐड इनटू फोर्स वेक्टर. ओके, velocity vector is always add into velocity vector. Okay, displacement vector is always add into displacement vector. We know this. Okay, कभी भी हम लोग लेंथ को मास में ऐड करते हैं क्या? नहीं ऐड कर सकते. लेंथ इज व्हाट एवर 2 मीटर, मास इज व्हाट एवर 3 kg. हाउ टू ऐड इट? सो सेम फिजिकल क्वांटिटी सेम फिजिकल क्वांटिटी में ऐड होती है. मतलब फोर्स खाली फोर्स में ऐड हो सकता है, डिस्प्लेसमेंट खाली डिस्प्लेसमेंट में ऐड हो सकता है. व्हाट यूर आंसर विल कम व्हाट यूर डिस्प्लेसमेंट. ओके, तो सिंगल वेक्टर विच प्रोड्यूस द सेम इफेक्ट. सेम इफेक्ट मतलब जिसका हम लोग एडिशन सब्ट्रैक्शन कर रहे हैं वो सारे सेम वेक्टर है, उसका इफेक्ट भी क्या होगा? सेम होगा. मतलब फोर्स का एडिशन कर रहे हैं तो एडिशन फोर्स रिजल्टेंट फोर्स ही आएगा. ओके, सो फोर्स 5 + 3 8 न्यूटन. ओके, 3 न्यूटन + 4 न्यूटन आपको आएगा. वेक्टर रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ फोर्स. सो वेक्टर को कैसे फोर्स में रिप्रेजेंट किया? सो दिस आर बेसिक एग्जांपल. ओके, दिस इज कार्ट. नाउ लिसन, look at this. Man is pushing this cart by 100 Newton. Horse is pulling this card by 200 Newton. Both is pulling this card, means applying force on this card towards the right hand side. So what will happen? Total force will be 100 plus 200, 300. Okay, ये फोर्स यहाँ पे लगा रहा है, ये मैन ऐसे पुश कर रहा है. So this is a 100 plus 200 becomes whatever 300. But look at here, this horse is applying force backward. Horse backward force apply कर रहा है. Man is pulling this horse this side, right hand side. So this is by 100 Newton, back side by 200 Newton. So what will happen? Net force on this cart, total force cart पे कितना लगेगा? 200 and 100 minus करो. So resultant will be backward. Why? Because of पीछे ज़्यादा force लग रहा है back side में. So this cart will come back with 100 Newton. The force net force applied on this cart is equal to whatever 100 Newton. Okay, so this is explanation is given here. Thank you.